So I'm gonna do several short videos because on this the medicine and where it came from. But it's a lot to unravel. But I'm going to show you this. Everybody knows this has basically always been the medical symbol. See the wings and the snake, and the rod in the middle represents a human. And it says on here, a doctor restores peace and saves us from evil. The wings represent a dove, and they means peace. The rod is a human saying help, and saying help because there's a snake and evil around the human. So this is what somebody says is a logical meaning of the medical logo, okay? However, what is missing from here? Nowhere does it mention God. It doesn't mention God. A doctor restores peace and saves us from evil. No, God does. Which is why, to unpack all this, it's going to take several videos, because the Hippocratic oath, everybody's heard of that. It's what doctors, the oath they take. Well, it goes back to Hippocrates. I think I'm saying his name wrong, but it goes back to Hippocrates, who was a physician. There's not a lot known about his life, but his formal name was Asclepius, and what that means is a descendant, the doctor of God. The doctor of God. Now, to me, I would think that God doesn't need a doctor, but that's just me. However, this all goes back, a lot of it, to Greek mythology. And regardless if it's a myth or not, all of that stuff, I mean, I think it's nonsense. It's just all these different gods. There's a god of health, there's a god of medicine, there's all these different deities. We see this in the swamp, actually. The buildings in the swamp, they're like the Roman Empire, the Greek worshiping of statues and everything the Bible tells us not to do, such as, don't build the golden calves, don't build false idols. But there is people that believe in all these deities. I would say a lot of the swamp probably does, some of them. But I think it goes back that far, all the way to the beginning of how medicine came here, and that's why it'll take some unraveling, because it's rather extensive. But when you don't have, and I said on my other channel in one of my very first videos, the biggest thing that's always bothered me about medicine and science is they leave God out of everything. And I don't mean all these Greek god deities. I mean the God of the Bible. They leave God out of everything. And God created it. So it's like, how can you do that? Well, it's a lot like the Bible talks, man always wanting to be God. There's many people that want to kill God because man wants to be glorified. And here's the most important piece, and I've said this before. I personally would argue anybody that tries to say you don't need to believe in any God in order to be morally good or have a moral foundation. Oh, yes, you do. Yes, you do. Because I walked on the other side when I drank, and I didn't have a relationship with God. So it was easy then to do the white lies and justify poor behavior away. It was easy to ignore my own poor behavior. And we all have poor behavior, especially if we don't have a moral foundation that's a path where we're trying to do our best, like God is watching us. And for me, Jesus, his teachings are an example of how we're supposed to live. Do I stray off of that? I sure do. but I get back on it as quick as possible. But if you don't have any belief in God, it is so easy to step on other people and justify it, use other people and justify it, steal from other people and justify it, rob, kill, whatever, and justify it. All of that. Or just to do something as simple as, I'm firing somebody for wrong reasons, but I have to do it. And not have, because then you've absolved yourself. But when you're walking a path that tells you, okay, this is right or wrong, I should or shouldn't do, and you're thinking of those things with different, decisions that come before you that are maybe ones that you're not sure how to make, you look to God for help in the path to follow. So I absolutely think in order to have a moral foundation and not be morally bankrupt, you have to have a relationship with God where you're trying to follow a path of what Jesus taught about. So Anthony Fauci, the head of the CDC, these people, they have no moral, they're totally morally bankrupt. Anthony Fauci is a total media whore. He's constantly, he worships himself. And yet he has solved nothing. If after 2 years they think we're still in this big mess and what do? They want to blame everybody else. That's not what mature and morally filled people do. They take accountability. They're mature enough to take accountability when they make mistakes. These people never do. They just blame. Oh, we're going to blame all the people that didn't do what we say. That's a child. Anthony Fauci is a media whore. He's a child. So look at how it's failed. If in the 30s we were doing electric electric shock therapy, okay, in mental health, and we're still doing it today, then the science has failed. I'm sorry, but it has. They just come out with new meds and and never do these new meds ever really fix anything. Maybe occasionally, but eventually down the line the person comes back in because they don't work anymore. Or they have such bad side effects. The very fact that so many in the medical community, we don't ask this stuff, and even myself, because we just trusted everything the science said. But the science has failed. Do they do some good things? They can do surgery and but what came first, the virus or the science? Like, who did the viruses create a bunch of problems that weren't there to begin with? And then they've just used science in a way to just, scam people and make money. So I'm going to look into all this and do other videos on it because I think it's an important piece. And I think as long as we leave God out of science and out of medicine, then we shouldn't be calling any of it expert.